Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to one and all and welcome to this session of your question answer for your JEE mains. Well, as you can see, I am going to discuss with you the questions which are related for my JEE mains exam, which could be there for my surface chemistry. I have done the topic, we have gone through it, we have discussed each and every detail which can be there into my exam. Now the point is whether I am able to apply my concepts, whether I am able to go through the questions or not. So today I have come up with some of the few practice questions that you will be doing along with me, and we will get to know how to apply the things that we have done, and in case even if you are not able to do that, how to proceed with it. Right. So looking up at the very first question, what does it say? It says that according to Freundlich adsorption isotherm, which of the following is correct? Right. Now the first thing that should come to my mind when I am saying my Freundlich adsorption isotherm, I should have a picture of what the graph used to be like, what the formula used to be, so that I can proceed with what I have to do. Now if I see the options, x by m, now what used to be your x upon m? If you remember that x refers to your mass of adsorbate, m refers to the mass of adsorbent. So x by m, we used to calculate the quantity of the ratio of the adsorbate as well as my adsorbent, right? Then it says, can it be directly proportional to P0, or in option B it says directly proportional to P to the power 1. Option C, x upon m directly proportional to P to the power 1 by n, or all of the above are correct for different range of pressure, right? Now of course, just by looking at this, I won't be able to do that. What do I always say? Just proceed step by step and rule out the options which you do not find to be apt, right? Now it says my Freundlich adsorption isotherm. I mark that. Now what do I have to do? If they say Freundlich adsorption isotherm, I should know how to draw it. I should know what the basic formula was. Now my Freundlich adsorption isotherm, what it used to be? That was x upon m is equal to Kp to the power 1 upon n, right? That's what it says. Well, of course, if this is the case, then option C, that would prove to be correct. No ways whether say it right or wrong, right? But do you remember that we have done some special cases when I was drawing this particular graph, where I was giving you that how to draw the graphs, and some were led to other options as well. Well, of course, we will see that. So when I draw a graph between your x by m versus P, what did I used to get? I used to have a graph something like this, right? And what was it? This used to refer to my x by m is equal to Kp to the power 1 by n. 1 by n, that's what I am saying. Now this is the case where simply P to the power 1 by n, that is applicable, a fraction of charge is there. What if I get a straight line? If I'm talking about the low pressure range or the high pressure range, what would happen? That means if, just assume, if I have the value of n that is equal to 1, what would I get? That would simply give me x by m is equal to Kp, right? If I get Kp, what do I see? I get a straight line graph. That means if the pressure range is low, if the fraction is low, somewhere I can apply this context. That means I said that this can be applied over a different range. So I say if I have my low pressure, I apply it there. Then I come to the point, of course, the fraction part that is being applied. But what if I see when this continuous graph I observe, that used to happen when the fraction that was 0, that was, or simply we said that got saturated. When it got saturated till the infinity point, that means 1 upon infinity, what does that refers to? That refers to my P to the power 0. Do I have that in option? Well, of course, yes, I have that as well. So this refers to my, because this is what? This is my saturation pressure. So what does that mean? it means that whenever I have to draw my Freundlich adsorption isotherm, I should know the basic formula. This is the formula, and when I start drawing the graph, when I see it at different pressure range, obviously different types of formulas I can provide, different types of ways are there to write it. So of course I can say that it can be written in the first format where it is proportional to the power 0, to the power 1, or even in the power 1 upon n. So what does that prove? That proves that the correct option, that would be simply my last option, where I say that all of the options, they are correct for the different ranges of my pressure, right? So I can say that. So all that I had to do was, I should know, I need to pick up the points, I need to pick up my Freundlich adsorption isotherm, right? Then coming up to the next point or your next question, what does it say? It says, which of the following statements is incorrect regarding my physiosorption, right? Now again, the word physiosorption has come. That means I should have a clear picture into my mind what physical adsorption used to refer to, how it was done, how the graphs are there, and what it means, right? It says, it occurs because of the van der Waals forces. More easily liquefiable gases, they are adsorbed easily. Under high pressure, it results into my multimolecular layer on the adsorbent surface. And the last one, that enthalpy of adsorption is slow and positive, right? Now if I start with the very first one, it says that it occurs because of my van der Waals forces. That is totally correct. That's what we used to study, where we said that physical adsorption, that was simply on the basis of interaction between your adsorbate and my adsorbent, right? That's what we did. So of course that is correct, that cannot be incorrect. Then it says we have even done that the easily liquefiable gases, the gases which can be turned into the liquid state very easily, they can be adsorbed very easily because we do not need a bond, we just need an interaction. So of course this would be correct as well. Now it says under high pressure, it results into a multimolecular layer. That is totally correct. First of all, it starts when the pressure range is low, it starts with the formation of one layer, right? Then as I move forward, then I go along in the interaction, multi-layer formation that occurs into my physical adsorption. So even that would be correct. Coming up to the last one, it says that enthalpy of adsorption is slow and positive. Is it true? Well, of course not, because I know that my physical adsorption process, that is exothermic in nature, right? If it is exothermic in nature, it has to move forward. If it has to move forward, the enthalpy of adsorption should be low, and it cannot be positive, it should be negative for the process to take place. So what would be my correct option? The correct option, or I'll say the incorrect that I have to choose, that would be that enthalpy of adsorption, that is slow and negative, because the correct answer is that it should be a negative value, right? So I can do that. Then coming up to the next question, now this is an easy one, you have done that. It says that gold numbers of the protective colloids A, B, C and D. Now they have provided you with the gold numbers. It says 0.50, 0.01, 0.10 and 0.005 respectively. The correct order of their protective powers is, right? They are saying gold numbers, they are saying protective powers. Now you should know this thing that lyophobic colloids, they are unstable in nature. In order to stabilize them, we add to them your lyophilic colloids. And what is that? That used to be simply the amount in milligram that has to be added to the gold sol to bring about the flocculation into the 10% of the NaCl solution that is happening, of 1 ml of that, right? That's what we know. Now I know another thing as well, that my coagulation power, that used to be inversely proportional to my gold number, or I'll say that higher the gold number, lesser is the protecting power. So simply I have to use, either write it as gold number, or simply you can say the protecting power, that is inversely proportional to my gold number. We do not need to go into the theory, that is not even our case. We simply know the concept, how it works. We have read that smaller is the value of gold number, higher will be its ability to protect the colloid. So what do you see into this one? I see that my D, that is the one that has my lowest value. If it has my lowest value of gold number, that should have the highest value of protecting power, right? So, whenever we go for this multiple choice thing, I always say that always try to work smartly, because you know the answer, no doubt you are able to relate it, you are able to do it. But the best part, if you would have done this, if you would have seen directly, that would have saved so much of your time. You don't even need to check for option A, B or D. You can simply say, because now I have the clear concept, I know how to proceed, I can say that option C, that would be my correct option. Why? Because D, that has the lowest value of gold number, and my gold number, that is inversely proportional to my protecting power, right? So, I can do this. Now, coming up to the next one. Now, of course, as you would have seen, when even when I was discussing with you your NEET questions, and now even in mains, this adsorption isotherms concept, the concept of your coagulation and flocculation, that is a major part that covers up most of your questions, right? So, now let's see the question. What does it say? It says, in Langmuir's model of adsorption of gas on the solid surface, the rate of dissociation of adsorbed molecules from the surface that does not depend on the surface covered. The adsorption at a single site on the surface may involve multiple molecules at the same time, or the mass of gas striking a given area of surface is proportional to the pressure of the gas, right? The mass of the gas striking a given area is independent of the pressure of gas. Now, what to do when you see such questions? I always say that sometimes the options that are being given, they are just to confuse you. And always go with the positive approach, go with confidence, because they would give you the correct option would simply be the one that you would have read. Of course, the extra options that they are providing you, they are not of our concern. I know this thing. Now, when I see my Langmuir adsorption isotherm, what comes to my mind? Of course, the thing that should come to my mind is, first thing, that it would be monolayer, right? That comes to my mind. Apart from that comes the formula. Now, what used to be the formula? Where I said X by M, that is equal to AP upon 1 plus BP, right? I have done this formula. I know that A and B, they are my constants. They are dependent on the nature of gas, nature of adsorbent or the adsorbate, and this P, that refers to my pressure. So, what do you see? Do you see the point that it is independent of the pressure? Well, of course not. As I have given the formula, that is totally dependent on pressure. The value, the whole question that revolves around my pressure. So, of course, the mass of the gas striking a given area of surface, that is proportional to the surface of the gas, right? I can simply say that. Now, the point comes, if you have to rule out other options, you can even do that. What does it say? It says adsorption at a single site of the surface may involve multiple molecules. It says multiple. Is it so? What did I say? What have we done in the postulates? That Langmuir adsorption isotherm, that is monolayer in nature. If it is monolayer, then one particular site that would interact with just one molecule, right? So, this one ruled out as well. The first one, the rate of dissociation of the adsorbed molecule from the surface that does not depend on the surface covered. Is it true? Does it ever happen? Every time, each type of adsorption that I talk about, I always discuss that the surface covered that depends on the quantity, that depends on my value that it reflects, right? So, even that one would be ruled out. So, this way I can say that would totally depend, because that's how the formula is given and that's how it is done. Then coming up to the next one, it says which one of the following characteristics that is not correct for your physical adsorption. Now, over the time, each and every time, again and again, they ask you the questions for your physical adsorption, your chemical adsorption, your Langmuir or your Freundlich one, right? So, you have to do that very carefully. Now, it says that it is incorrect. Now, if I read out the options, what does it say? Adsorption on solids is reversible. Adsorption increases with increase in temperature. adsorption is spontaneous, both the enthalpy and the entropy of adsorption are negative, right? So if I see, now I know this is talking about my physical adsorption, right? First thing about physical adsorption, what have I been doing over and again? Whenever the term physical adsorption that comes, that means I talk about exothermic process. This is fixed, right? First point, adsorption is reversible. Well, of course, we have done that. We have talked about the fact that this is the type of adsorption. This is the bond which is simply formed by the van der Waals forces, which is made by the interaction between your adsorbent and the adsorbate. And of course, because this is physical in nature, that is not involved with the formation of any chemical bond. So this is totally reversible. So that is a correct statement. Then it says it increases with increase in temperature. Is it so? You know this thing, and I've just written that your physical adsorption, that is exothermic in nature. If something is exothermic, I know this thing, that this is the particular tendency of my endothermic reactions, where I study about the endothermic. When I talk about the forward reaction, where I have to favor it, I say this thing, that if I want to favor an endothermic reaction, the value that will increase with my increase in temperature. So what does that mean? That means that this is totally a wrong statement, right? Then it says adsorption is spontaneous. Of course, this is spontaneous, as we have just said that delta S value, even that would be negative, and we have done by the Gibbs free energy. So both the enthalpy and the entropy of adsorption are negative. So which is true, because it is exothermic, and the adsorption, because adsorption happens, the randomness decreases. If the randomness decreases, the value of your delta S, that would decrease, right? Because that is my entropy, that is my randomness. If something that has come over and taken up the place, would it be able to move? Well, of course not. If it is not able to do so, simply the value would be negative. And on overall calculating the terms, enthalpy, that comes out to be negative as well. So what do we get? I get that the option B, that is found to be the one which is incorrect, which does not go with my question, because it is the condition of my endothermic reaction, right? Then coming up to the next question, what does it say? It says the Tyndall effect is observed only when the following conditions are satisfied. And now what do I need to do? The first thing, as I always say, when I am reading out the question, I have said Tyndall effect. So the first thing, the picture of the Tyndall effect, that should come to my mind if I have to proceed the question. What does it say? It says the diameter of the dispersed particles is much smaller than the wavelength of the light used, right? Then it says the diameter of dispersed particle is not much smaller than the wavelength of light used, or the refractive indices of the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium, they are almost the same in magnitude, right? The refractive indices of the dispersed phase and dispersion medium, they differ greatly in magnitude. Now one thing is clear. What is clear? It is clear that when I study about the Tyndall effect, 2 points I study. What are they? I simply study the diameter of my dispersed particle, the particles which are undergoing dispersion, the size of those particles that cannot be much smaller than the light of the wavelength used. That means the option 2, where it says that it cannot be smaller, that would be my correct option. Apart from that, in Tyndall effect, I studied about the effect of refractive indices as well. And what was it? If I have to bring about the Tyndall effect, if I have to illuminate the path, the refractive indices of the two compounds of my dispersed phase and my dispersion medium, they should vary greatly in magnitude, right? So what does that mean? That my option 2 and option 4, they are correct. Do I see something like that? Well, of course, option B, where it says that both my 2 and 4, they are correct, right? So what did we do in that? We simply said, we simply discussed the basic concept, applied the basic concept and did the question, right? Moving on to the next one. Now this one would be your favorite and this one would be easy as well, because I know by far we have talked so much about your Hardy-Schulze rule. Even when I was discussing with you, even when I was giving you the theory lectures, I said that these are the questions, very easy, very interesting one that you are going to see in your exam, right? Now what does it say? It says the coagulating power of electrolytes having the ions Na plus, Al plus 3 and barium for arsenic sulfide Sol increases in the order, right? Now they say that I have my arsenic Sol. This is my arsenic sulfide. What does it prove? Now this is a negative Sol, right? And now what do I have to apply? I know about my Hardy-Schulze rule. What does it say? The first point it says is the particular Sol, the particular substance that would interact with the oppositely charged particle, right? So the first thing that would be opposite charge. That means I need a positive system. Do I have a positive system? Well, of course, all the three systems they have provided to me, they are positive systems. Then what did it say? It said when you have got the opposite charge of the system, the value, the coagulation power, that will increase with the increase in the magnitude of my charge. That means if I have to talk about the coagulation power, so I say the coagulation power directly proportional to magnitude of charge, right? That's what I have. And what do I see? I see that maximum magnitude. Where do I have the maximum magnitude? That would be my value 3, that is common. That 1 would be the minimum, 3 would be the maximum and 2 would lie in midway. Do I have such an option? Well, of course, yes. The option B, where it says that the coagulation power that is increasing as it goes from your Na plus to barium to aluminium. So what does it prove? It proves that all that you need to see in the question, all that you have to do is learn the application of your Hardy-Schulze rule. Of course, you have done the theory part. Of course, you know what exactly it means, how it goes. But the point is that every time when you are doing that, you should know how to apply that, right? So we would be able to apply that every time. Hardy-Schulze rule, they ask you a question, what do? You simply see the charge which is opposite to my system, and after that I see the maximum positive or the negative charge. Now, had it been my positive Sol, if instead of my arsenic sulfide I would have taken up something else, if I would have simply my sodium chloride, if I would have that, then that means then I would have to compare the charges of my negative Sol which would have been there. So the maximum negative, maximum coagulation power, right? Coming up to the next one, what does it say? It says among the following the surfactant that will form micelles in aqueous solution at the lowest molar concentration at ambient conditions, right? That is, and they have provided me 4 options, right? CH3, CH215, N plus, trimethyl bromide ion, then CH3, CH211, where that is a salt of sulfate they have given you. In the third one, they have given you the acetate salt, and in the last one, simply my acetyl bromide form, where they have given you CH3, CH211, N plus, CH3 thrice, Br minus, right? Now, the first thing that I should know about, that is that whenever I have to discuss, whenever I want to know about the surfactant power, whenever I want to know about the critical micelle concentration, I should have a clear concept. And what is that concept? Now, know this trick. Every time you would be doing this question, you have to keep it in mind, the hydrophobic chain. the length of your hydrophobic chain. What is the hydrophobic part? That is nothing but my alkyl part. That's what we have been doing. That's how we discussed the surfactants. That's how I say soaps and detergents what refer to. So it says that the hydrophobic chain, that is directly proportional to the micelle concentration value. That means that is proportional to the micelle in aqueous solution at the lowest concentration. So I can say directly proportional to low value of micelle concentration, right? So next time when they give you such question, what you need to check is if they are asking you the lowest concentration, you just need to check the one which has the maximum, the longest hydrophobic chain, the longest alkyl part. And you know this thing that since the bromide ion that doesn't exist into my system, I have to discuss till this part, right? Into this one if I say till this part, here I have to do CH211, and into this one of course till here. Now what do I see? I can simply see the first one 15 into 2 30, 33 and 9. What would that be? 42. Comparing to that one, of course this seems to be very low, again very low, can compare it with this one, but again 11 into 2 22, less than what we have calculated in the first part. So what do you have to do? Every time you have to discuss the question that regards the lowest micelle concentration, you just need to check the hydrophobic chain. The one with the longest hydrophobic chain, the one with the maximum number of molecules, that would provide you the lowest value of your critical micelle concentration. So what would be the answer? The answer that would be simply my option A, right? Then coming up to the next question. Now it says, choose the correct option for the stability of my lyophobic colloidal system. Right, what are the options? Preferential adsorption of ions on the surface from the solution, preferential adsorption of solvent on the surface from the solvent, on the surface from the solution, attraction between different particles having opposite charges on the surface, or potential difference between the fixed layer and the diffuse layer of opposite charges around the colloidal particles. Right. Now, first thing, what does the question say? My question says stability of my lyophobic colloidal particles. I know this thing that my lyophobic colloids, they are highly unstable, right? And when I have to stabilize them, I either use up my lyophilic soles, lyophilic colloids, that's where we incorporate the gold number, or simply we have read this in theory, the preferential adsorption of ions is done. And what was preferential adsorption? You know, when I was doing, if my surface, that was my positive surface, we have done this thing like my surface that was made up of my Ag plus, and I had two options. I had my ferrous sulfate, I had my potassium iodide. So the positive one that had a preferential adsorption of ions from the solution which were present, right? So I can say if I had to stabilize, of course this one would be correct, no doubt in that. Then it says preferential adsorption of solvent on the surface from the solution. Does that happen? Well, of course not. As we have always said, adsorption of ions is what I am talking about, right? Then it says attraction between the different particles having the opposite charges on their surface. Well, of course, attraction is there when there are opposite charges, but that does not lead to the stability, that simply, binds them up and forces them to be together. So, of course, even that cannot be the option. Then I have the potential difference between the fixed layer and the diffuse layer of the opposite charges around the colloidal particle. Well, of course, yes, we have heard about the electrokinetic potential, we have done that, and that's where we said that if I had a particular layer, if I have a particular ion which covers up my surface and I surround it, the preferential adsorption of some other ions is happening, it would interact. If it would interact, the one static layer that is being formed by the another diffuse layer leading to the formation of my diffuse layer. If the diffuse layer is formed, somewhere we would have different potential differences, right? And that is the reason which is responsible for the formation, for the stability of my lyophobic colloids, right? So I can say even this would be a correct option, right? So what all have I said? I say that whenever I have to stabilize my lyophobic colloid, first thing that I should do is I should talk about the preferential adsorption of ions that should be there, that can happen on the surface, not from the solvent. And of course, because the adsorption is happening, layers are being formed, the static layer and a diffuse layer, and there should be a potential difference, right? And if there would be potential difference, that would lead to the stability. So option A and option D would be the correct ones. Coming up to the last question of my JEE mains. It says, which one of the following is incorrect about my enzyme catalysis? Now we have done the enzyme catalysis quite in detail. We have discussed how it is being done, how enzyme in substrate leading to the formation of enzyme substrate, which further breaks down to the formation of enzyme and the respective product, right? We have done the mechanism. Apart from that, we even discussed that what are the specific characteristics of my enzyme, how it works, what are the conditions and what happens. So of course, if you have gone through it, if you have done those lectures and that theory is being done, so you would be very easily be able to answer this, right? So what does it say? We want to choose the incorrect. The first thing it says, enzymes are mostly proteinous in nature. That is true, they are made up of protein complexes, long chain proteins which are being there, and that's what enzymes are. Then it says action is specific. Well, of course the action is specific. We have done this thing that one particular enzyme that can act on a particular site, that can bring about that particular reaction and not in the other case. So of course this is correct, this is correct. Then it says they are denatured by UV rays and at high temperature. Well, of course even that happens. Now the point is, you would have heard about denature. Now there is a 2-degree structure which is being present, a coiled structure is there. When denaturation happens, that unwinds, it unwinds the structure that simply exists as a random coil and does not exist as a protein. And the last one, they are least reactive at optimum temperature. Well, this is just opposite of what we are being told, because we know that enzymes, they have the tendency to be the most reactive at the optimum pH, optimum temperature and the other conditions. What is optimum? That is nothing but the temperature, the particular temperature at which we see the maximum activity of the enzyme. So of course this is the one which would be my wrong. And what did I have to choose? I had to choose my incorrect option. So simply I can say option D, that would be my incorrect option, right? So as you see, even the most of the questions, they were covered from, go for the adsorption part, like that is very important. Langmuir adsorption isotherm, Freundlich adsorption isotherm, generally you see the questions. Don't miss out the graphs, don't miss out the equations and how it is done, right? And apart from that, of course, your Hardy-Schulze rule, the coagulation part, that's what you have to do. So of course, and surface chemistry, that does not involve much of your complicated questions and all. Simple theory, go with the understanding and just apply the concept, right? So of course go through it, try more questions and you would be able to do that. And as I always say, we will meet again somewhere in the next class and we would talk about some other exercises. Till then, take care of yourself and have a great day.